Hello. As you saw by the title, we're going to be discussing how mammals evolved and how they came to be the dominant force on Earth. In this video, we'll be discussing many prehistoric creatures, lost lineages, etc. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get into it. Alright, but first, before we get into the Cenozoic era, cool species, things like that, let's first discuss where mammals actually evolved from. So mammals actually come from the Carboniferous period, which predates the dinosaurs way back. Oxygen was at, I believe, 30% levels, so that's where we get things like the giant dragonfly-like creatures, giant bugs, amphibians, etc. But that's when the synapsid lineage split off from what would become reptiles, birds, dinosaurs. And yeah, let's discuss like what synapses were and how they would eventually become early mammals and how they rose to dominance. Mammals trace their lineage back over 300 million years to the synapsids, a group of ammonoids that split from the line that would become reptiles and dinosaurs. One of the most iconic early synapsids was Dimetrodon, not a dinosaur but a mammal-like reptile with a huge sail on its back. It lived around 295 million years ago and represents a stepping stone towards true mammals. Fast forward 210 million years and we find Morganoctodon, a tiny mouse-sized animal with teeth specialized for chewing and 3 middle ear bones, a hallmark of mammals. Some interesting species around this time was Castoroctida, 160 million years ago. A beaver-like semi-aquatic mammal with fur and webbed feet, showing early adaptations to water long before whales evolved. Alright, so the species I just explained, like Morganoctodon and Castoroctida, sorry if I'm butchering those names, those lived like early into the Triassic, which was like the beginning of the dinosaurs, so those were relatively small. But things like the synapsids and Dimetrodon, they were relatively large because they were the dominant force on Earth. But after the Permian extinction, which is the worst extinction event like ever recorded, way before the dinosaurs too, wiped out basically like I think like 97% of life. Like it was crazy. But Lystrosaurus and a few other synapsids survived, and those would eventually evolve into like smaller mammals, and some like the last Therocephalians, which are kind of like cats, but in the Permian, they're kind of like synapsid cats. I'll show a picture of them, but those would eventually evolve into like mammals that we know, kind of rat-like creatures that just lived under the shadows of giant dinosaurs. Couldn't really evolve, all the niches were taken up, and so they were relatively small. So with all these niches taken up, they couldn't diversify as much. You know, we spoke about Castoroctida, so they adapted to water, but they were still relatively small. You see smaller adaptations, but we don't see much variety. But it isn't until the extinction event that killed the dinosaurs that things start to get a little bit interesting. By interesting, I mean we're about to see a lot more animal species. It's going to be an explosion of mammals. Alright, now that we've got like the origin of mammals and where they actually evolved from out of the way, we can start talking about the Paleogene, which is where a lot more interesting creatures start popping up. So the Paleogene was right after the dinosaurs went extinct, and we do have fossils that pass the threshold. Like there are dinosaur fossils that are past the layer of rock that indicates 66 million years ago, but they died within a million years after the extinction. So with dinosaurs out of the way, now animals could actually do their thing and like start taking up the niches and start diversifying into what we know today. And one of those amazing creature families are called Chalicotheres, and these dudes are crazy. Back when I started researching this video, way back whenever I was choosing what to do for my project, because this is my English project, right? I started researching and I heard these things called Chalicotheres, and I also saw a video made by Lindsay Nicole, and she talked about Chalicotheres in her Paleogene video. Go check that out. It's called History of the Earth. Great series. But Chalicotheres, dude, they're so freaking cool. And I don't know if I've heard different pronunciations like Chalicotheres, Chalicotheres, but these guys Really cool. Picture a gorilla and a horse mixed together. It's crazy. If we're gonna talk about calicotheres, we should probably talk about the immersion of one of those groups, ungulates, and we still have ungulates today. Now, ungulates walk on their toes. There are even-toed ungulates and there are odd-toed ungulates. It's pretty self-explanatory what they are. For an example, today an odd-toed ungulate would be like a horse because they walk on their hooves and they only have one toe. And then an even-toed ungulate would be like a camel, deer, pig. They walk on two little things. And then another odd-toed would be rhino because they walk on three. Same for an elephant. And then, yeah, so basically they just walk on their toes. The first ungulate actually, what scientists think like ungulates evolved from, actually lived alongside the dinosaurs, and then once the dinosaurs died out, then it could evolve into more creatures. The family Calicotheridae, it's of the odd-toed ungulate tree. Now, calicotheres lived in North America, Eurasia, and Africa, and they lived from the Middle Eocene to the early Pleistocene. They're often called calicotheres, which is a term that I used to introduce them, a term which is also applied to a broader group of Calicotheridae. They are noted for their unusual morphology compared to other ungulates, such as their clawed forelimbs. Members of the subfamily Calicotheridae developed elongated gorilla-like forelimbs that were thought to have been used to grasp vegetation. They are also thought to have been browsers on foliage, and as well as possibly bark and fruit. Alright, I am on a time constraint, so I will be making a part 2. Ms. Foreigner, if you got this far into the video, thank you, class. Let me know what you think of the video. But yeah, we'll be uploading a part 2. I just don't want to rush things. I'm already over time. So, yeah, I'll see you.